Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was the son of Lost Devil King and Red Dragon Emperor Infinite Part 1. Before we start, please go support God for writing that awesome fanfic. AU. Issei Maou is the son of the Lost Devil King, Satan, and the current host of the Red Dragon Emperor. Armed with a boosted gear, the Prince of Devils soon finds himself being dragged into saving the supernatural world again. Chapter 1. Trip Innocent of D. Argento, wake up, Issei moaned as he felt the warm, luxurious sheets being torn from his body. Shuddering, the morning chill forced the brunette teen to slowly open his hazel eyes. If you don't wake up now, then I won't leave any food for you. She never leaves any food for me anyways. She is right, partner. You wouldn't want to be late for your first day of school. Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor, mused. The teen rubbed his eyes tiredly in exasperation. The Welsh dragon's voice was loud, and it always resonated deeply in his mind. Why must a normal life be so cruel? On first glance, Issei's gold-brown eyes and dark brown hair made him look to be your average 16-year-old freshman in high school. However, if anyone had gotten close enough to him, they would be able to see that his pupils were in fact hardened and frozen in a permanently cold expression. These were eyes of someone who has seen and experienced too much. After all, education is important. Drake continued to lecture Issei in his half-awake state, annoying the teen further. Issei frowned as he finally picked himself up from the bed. Easy for you to say, Drake. You just live in my head and do whatever you want all day. I actually have to pay attention to those stupid lectures. Oiwani-san, please stop, I'm sorry. Drake laughed heartily as he watched an older, white-haired girl with purple strands pinch the cheek of his current host. Alas equals Ramus, don't you think you're being a little too harsh on him? No, I'm not. Arasu Ramusu, also known as Alas equals Ramus, scowled at the Dragon Emperor. Although Drake was only present in Issei's consciousness, it was apparent who the white-haired girl was reprimanding when she decided to give someone an earful. My idiot of a brother needs to take his education more seriously. After all, if mother and father hear about how their son is slacking off, then I'm not going to be the one to deal with their disappointment. So Issei, wake up. 5 minutes later, Issei Maou found himself sitting at the kitchen table, slurping pitifully at the cup of instant ramen in his hands. Sighing, he kept an eye on the clock as he ate. The teen also heard Alas equals Ramus singing in her soprano voice while she combed her hair. Even at the age of 20, his adopted elder sister was always strict on him as their parents were still in America, leaving her to watch over her younger sibling. Alas equals Ramus was also currently training as a student teacher in the town of Kuo. Their father, Sadao Maou, and their mother, Emilia Justina, were always away on business trips. Maou had attained the position of vice CEO in the McDonald's Corporation and was always required to work outside of Japan. Their mother also had to go abroad as well in order to take care of him while he was overseas. However, everything was just a front for his family's dark secret. But they really were. Sadao Maou was actually in fact the king of devils, Satan, who had abandoned the underworld after the great battle between the three factions. After God had perished, along with the majority of the leaders from the fallen angels and the devils, Sadao had escaped to Japan in order to conceal his identity and hoping to prevent future conflicts. Tired from all the fighting and bloodshed, Maou and his most trusted and surviving commander, Alciel, had rented out a modest apartment while Maou started a job in McDonald's. Yes, you've heard correctly. The King of Devils was a part-timer at McDonald's. But soon, he was chased after by Emilia Justina. A powerful hybrid, she was also known as the half-human, half-angel daughter of Archangel Michael. Michael was appointed as the current leader of the angels due to the absence of the deceased god. Also, a decent amount of time passed before Emilia finally saw the change in the King of Devils and finally allowed him to be in peace. That was until she eventually fell in love with him and decided to marry him once Sadao realized that he reciprocated her feelings. Of course, she had kept his identity a secret from everyone else, especially to anyone from the supernatural world. Unfortunately, Michael soon discovered Sadao's true identity. He had investigated into his son-in-law's past and was horrified by the knowledge that his own daughter had mated with the King of Devils. The Archangel then immediately disowned Emilia and told the two to never call upon him ever again. Michael was adamant in his decision, even when Sadao had pleaded and tried to show that he had truly changed his ways. However, being stubborn yet passionate, Emilia agreed to her father's disownment so as long as no harm would befall her family from him. Emilia and Sadao also had adopted Alas equals Ramus before Issei was born years later. Alas equals Ramus's existence was actually a fragment of Yazad Saphira, the fruit from the Tree of Life. However, that's another story as to how they had to fight off Michael in order to let Alas equals Ramus stay. Of course, their adoption of the humanoid fragment had occurred before their marriage. This was when they still considered each others as arch-enemies. Don't ask me how they adopted a kid together before becoming attracted to each other. It just happened. "I'm off," Issei called out. Hearing a lass equals Ramus's reply that she had heard, Issei sighed as he pushed the door closed behind him. "Well Drake, it's going to be a new school, Kuo Academy. You ready?" The Prince of Devils thought as he hiked up his school bag onto his shoulders. "Of course partner, but be careful. After all, you also sense their presences here too, right?" Drake cautioned. "Of course," Issei replied as he walked. "I felt the presences of fallen angels and devils when we first arrived weeks ago. But do you think any of them know of my identity?" "I don't believe so." Drake boomed thoughtfully. "But Isay, I think that the White One is nearby. I've been getting the same vibes from previous wielders before we had to fight Albion." After that piece of information, Isay became silent. The Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Emperor were destined to battle with each other for the rest of eternity, although Isay had always believed that there had to be a way around that. Unfortunately, Drake had always called that his unrealistic ideal in trying to find peace between the two bitter rivals. However, Isay wasn't actually looking for peace. He merely believed that it was pointless to try and kill one another for the rest of eternity. Albion and Drake were both killed by the three factions during the Great War. It was right after they had started to fight each other in the middle of the battlefield, causing mass destruction. Seeing the rising casualties on all sides, the three factions then fought the dragons together under a truce. Against the Triple Alliance, the two heavenly dragons were soon defeated. After being killed, the dragons' consciousness were both sealed into two sacred gears, known as the Boosted Gear and the Divine Dividing. Boosted Gear. Issei glanced at his left arm. The legendary sacred gear, Boosted Gear, was concealed as he subconsciously sealed away its power. It took the form of a large red gauntlet with a green orb in the center. The Boosted Gear also had multiple yellow spikes lining up on the sides. Known as a Longinus Gear, the Boosted Gear had the capability to kill God among with a handful of other Longinus rank sacred gears. As the host of the Red Dragon Emperor, Isay and Drake also have combined as one entity. The Divine Dividing was also in the same tier as well, but Drake's ability was to double its user's own power and transfer powers to others, while Albion's was to steal the opponent's power and adding it to his host. Oof. Isay was interrupted from his thoughts when he noticed that he had bumped into someone. It was a blonde girl with emerald green eyes. A suitcase filled with her belongings was spilling out her possessions all over the sidewalk. He suddenly felt a chill shoot up his spine. "A nun?" Asia whimpered as she slowly picked herself up. Sighing, she dusted herself up and prepared to apologize to whoever she had bumped into. Today was just not her day, as she had just arrived in Japan and was already getting lost left and right. "I'm sorry." Asia's words were stuck in her throat as she suddenly gazed into deep gorgeous light brown eyes with tints of gold in them. The light wind suddenly blew, gently moving the teen's spiky brown hair. Asia soon felt the heat beginning to curl up her face. Thankfully, the handsome stranger finally spoke. "I'm sorry for bumping into you. Are you alright?" Asia suddenly noticed that the teen was holding her briefcase out, with its contents already restored as if magically. The nun's voice finally returned. "Ah, thank you so much. My mind was wandering because I've been getting lost all day. Would you happen to know where the town's church is?" Suddenly, the brunette teen smiled, causing Asia's heart to flutter. She chastised herself for having such thoughts as she was a maiden of the church. "Yeah, I know how that feels. I just got here a few weeks ago as well. It's just up the hill. Want me to take you?" The blonde nun blushed again. "Thank you so much. My name is Asia Argento. What's yours?" "My name is Issei Maou. Nice to meet you, Asia Argento." "Well partner, that was certainly very generous of you." Drake chuckled as Isay began to sprint towards Kuo Academy. The teen was panicking because he was way late from helping the nun find the church. "But truly, that was my first time seeing an act like that. A devil helping a nun out of goodwill." The heavenly dragon commented thoughtfully. "It's because that she was a good person." Isay panted as he entered the school gate. "Besides, I'm only part devil, so your statement was only about 33% correct." Rias Gremory was surprised when she felt a breeze enter her classroom. Most mortals wouldn't have noticed it, but for the senses of devils, which were enhanced, could still detect the slightest detail that humans cannot. Iridid caught the sight of a teenager who was running at an unbelievable pace past her room and was shocked when he caught her gaze with his gold-flecked hazel eyes. Rias then detected a flash panic on the teen's face before it suddenly reverted back to a neutral mood. Breaking the gaze, the teen continued to run before he quickly disappeared out of her field of vision. Rias didn't know why, but she was suddenly struck with a feeling of uneasiness. Was that boy really a human or a threat? Chapter 2. Innocent Sorrow. Death. So much death. The lone figure stood amongst a large pile of bodies, shaking violently. Blood was plastered all over his crimson-colored armor, with ghostly green eyes glowing out of his helmet that sported the same shade of red. Panting heavily, the figure scanned his surroundings to make sure that no further enemies were nearby. The fight had been long and tiring, with multiple enemies coming at him in waves, unrelenting in their attacks. However, it was not a time for rest. More could be coming, and he had to find an undisclosed location to rest and protect her before they would be ambushed again. The little girl in a Gothic Lolita uniform stepped out from behind him. Her emotionless black eyes casually observing the level of carnage dealt by the figure. It was natural, after all, for a mortal being to see such things in the vast millennia of their lifetime, leading to their permanent emotion apathy. The office, the Ouroboros dragon and the infinite dragon god, lazily kicked away the dying hand of a devil who was blocking her way. Turning, Office slowly stuck out her index finger and gently poked the figure's helm, ignoring the blood that got itself onto her hands. "I am hungry." Office spoke monotonously before continuing to poke the figure's helm without pause. "I want food. Japanese food." Sighing, the figure stepped back and deactivated his armor, which faded from existence. It revealed the stoic face of a young Issei about 11 years old. His spiky brown hair was unruly from exiting the boosted gear scale male, with his usual brown-gold eyes currently being lifeless and icy. "I told you, Office, you can't keep wandering out while my back is turned. You're wanted by those evil organizations out there, and I never want you to get hurt." The little boy spoke with an equal emotionless tone before grabbing and shaking his head violently. Finally, his eyes cleared up as the usual warmth returned to his pupils. Each time he pushes himself when wielding the boosted gear, his bloodlust increases dramatically. Looking down, Issei fears the day when he would be unable to control himself and his mentality breaks. The Prince of Devils was suddenly interrupted from his thoughts when Office stepped forward and planted her lips on his own. Now floating in the air, the dragon god gently broke the kiss and rested her head on his muscular shoulder. "You are my mate." Office smiled softly. A bit of emotion always escaped from the immortal whenever she was around Issei. "I believe in Issei. I chose Issei, the strongest red dragon emperor." Issei smiled bashfully, gently rubbing the red gauntlet with a green spherical gem on his left arm. Opening his arms, he closed his eyes as he enjoyed the smooth and warm feel of the Ouroboros dragon colliding into him. Embracing Office, Issei was unaware of the individual suddenly appearing behind him, swinging a blade of blue light. "But your very existence is a mistake, Issei." Issei popped up from the bed in cold sweat, clenching his chest. Breathing heavily, he looked around to make sure that no other presence was in his room. Her voice from that fateful day still haunts him now. Slowly picking himself up, the host of the Welsh dragon limped towards the mirror in his bedroom and turned around, lifting his shirt. The large dark scar bore itself from his right shoulder down to his waistline. Scowling, Issei gently stroked the wound he had received 5 years ago. "Why the hell is it starting to hurt again?" Sighing, Issei limped back to the bed and pulled up the sheets. It had been his mistake for not being cautious enough, and regret for the past wouldn't change the future. The Prince of Devils closed his eyes, preparing for the bitter nightmares ahead. Office. Rias Gremory was furious. It had been weeks since that boy, Isay, had made eye contact with her. Normally, she had access to all information in the town of Kuo, especially the information on all its inhabitants. All but that damn Issei Maou. Issei Maou probably wasn't his real name, although Rias didn't hold that against him. Everyone had a right to change their own name. But what Rias didn't know was why. Her peerage had no luck in finding additional information about him either. The only records of him was that he attended school outside of the country, had parents who worked abroad, and that he was 16 years of age. However, Rias had a bad feeling about his last name. Maou. Was it possible he was related to the four great Satans in some way? Or did Isay have some sort of affiliation with the supernatural world? Shaking her head, the Princess of Ruin stopped the numerous theories that continued to run through her mind. There was always tomorrow, and she would confront him then. However, she couldn't stop herself from admitting that the teen was rather cute. And by deriving this formula, you would find out the formula for acceleration. Isay's hand flashed from writing as he quickly solved the calculus problems on the chalkboard. His classmates and sensei were staring slack-jawed as Issei easily completed the university-leveled questions. For the next question, use proportional representation after finding out the implicit differentiation of the sphere's formula, giving you the derivative of volume over the derivative of time, which gives you the shrinking rate of 44 mm per min. That should be correct, right, sensei? The teacher, a balding 40-year-old man who had called on Issei for not paying attention in class, nodded mutely in shock as the teen sat back down. He still couldn't believe that a second year could have solved the university questions that he had brought up only as an exemplar. Finally, the bell rang, and the teacher dismissed the class. Issei was trying to find his stuff inside his desk, which was flooded with confession letters. Unfortunately, he suddenly found himself being surrounded by the two people who were renowned for being the school perverts again. Sighing, the Prince of Devils sat back down and prepared himself for the verbal barrage from the perverted duo. They certainly talked too much for their own good. "Why you stupid pretty boy," the baldy Mitsuma yelled at him as his hands were curled up into claws. "How is it possible that you are athletic, smart, as well as good-looking? It defies the rules of reality." Yamotahama, a shorter teen who wore large, square glasses added. "You already have over 50% of the female population in this school falling for you, and it hasn't even been 2 full months since the start of school, yet you have to be using hacks." Sighing again, Issei drowned them out as he finally found his pencil case in the pile of letters. However, one of them piqued his interest with the name on the front. It was from someone named Yudo Kiba, who was inviting him to watch the Kendo club practice today after school. Yudo Kiba, also a second-year student but from another class. Famous for being a pretty boy and has the fitting title of Prince Charming in Kuo Academy with his blonde hair and blue eyes. Issei remembered after passing by him a couple of times in school that Yudo actually wasn't a human but had the feel of a devil in the aura he naturally exerted. Regardless, the letter had no romantic attachment behind it. The blonde probably didn't swing that way and is merely acting as an envoy to establish contact for his king. "Greg, do you think the devil family that has jurisdiction over this town know who I really am? They are beginning to move, after all." Issei asked inside his mind. "No, partner. But I can guarantee that they suspect you to not be human either. Remember how you had met the king of that peerage on your first day?" Drake replied. Issei did remember. Rias Gremory, one of the two great beauties in Kuo Academy, had locked eyes with him after he was running at an inhuman speed to get to class on time. "Yeah, I do. Thanks, Drake." Hearing the dragon's grunt of affirmation, Issei pushed past the two perverts and exited the classroom, heading downstairs to look for the Kendo dojo. "He's late." Kaneko Taoju, the school's mascot and appointed rook, deadpanned emotionlessly. A small girl, with a slim body, white hair and amber eyes, Kaneko looked like the perfect fantasy for lolicans. Rias and her appointed queen, Akeno Himejima, were currently sipping tea as they watched the school's Kendo team practice. Akeno was the perfect image of a Japanese lady, having polite grace and manners. However, that was all appearance-wise, as her true side is one of a half-masochist, half-sadistic individual, but only against those who harms or threatens those that she care about while in battle. In bed, that condition was completely null. Akeno didn't mind being the S or the M when it came down to performing dirty play. "I'm sorry but Yudo bowed lowly. "I put the invitation in his desk, but it looks like he has rejected my offer." Ria smiled gently, her turquoise eyes showing compassion and love for her peerage, her family. "It's okay, Yudo. I know you tried. There will be future chances to find out who Issei Maou really is." Rias didn't notice the figure stepping up from behind them. "What did you guys want to find out about me?" Rias and her peerage turned around to find themselves face to face with the expressionless Issei, whose eyes reflected boredom. Not sensing his presence appearing, Kaneko, Yudo, and Akeno both stepped forward in front of Rias. However, Issei merely raised an eyebrow at their defensive hostility. Rias waved her peerage back, her turquoise eyes now piercing. "Nothing important. We just want to know who you really are, after all." Issei smiled, although it contained no trace of humor. "I don't believe I understand what you are talking about, Miss Gremory." Kaneko's eyes narrowed as she stepped forward. Winding her arm back, she threw a punch that would have blown a hole through a normal human easily. However, everyone was shocked when Issei easily caught the punch before flicking her in the forehead with his other hand, making Kaneko jump back warily. "Well, an Ekamata turned devil, interesting," Issei calmly commented. Yudo and Akeno had both stepped forward and were about to launch attacks until Issei jerked his thumb in another direction, stopping their advance. The female Kendo club members were all pointing to them and whispering, having seen Issei catch Kaneko's punch. Scowling, both Yudo and Akeno stopped their assault and stepped back. My. Aren't your servants terribly impolite?" Issei now wore an expression of sarcastic contempt. "I thought the Great Gremory clan would be much more civilized than this." Ria scowled. Her hunch had been right on Issei being related to the supernatural world. Lowering her voice, she asked. "What faction are you from, Maou? Are you a devil?" Issei laughed a cold, dark laugh that caused them to shudder. It was a bitter, menacing tone. "And why should I tell you anything? All 4 of you combined will not even be close to half my full strength." The team then looked squarely at Akeno. "Including you, a half-fallen angel and half-devil hybrid." Akeno, now enraged, stepped forward with electricity crackling her fingertips. However, Issei extended his right hand, palm up. Ria's appointed queen stopped. "But, I will give you a chance to get what you want. If your knight," Issei pointed at Yudo, "can beat me in a Kendo match, then I will tell you everything you want to know. And yes, no powers can be used in the match to make it fair. But if you lose, Issei grinned darkly. I get to come and go as I please, but I won't make any trouble in this town, agreed. Yudo glanced over to Rias, who nodded. Turning to Issei, who still wore a smug and sarcastic expression, he stepped up. I accept. Issei and Yudo both circled around each other on the mat, observing each other's movements. Yudo held his shinai with two hands in front, the standard position, while Issei lazily held it in his right, point facing down. Anytime you're ready. Issei taunted as he suddenly hiked the sword behind his back. Think how Kirito fights Uguha in Sao Season 1, ignoring the gasps of the spectators. Yudo was also momentarily stunned before steeling himself again. This fight was for the Butchu, who had saved him and had given him a new life. He would win. Yudo charged Issei, swinging. Issei stepped back and leaned to the side, hearing the cry of awe from the female onlookers at his flexibility. Yudo was surprised as his swing completely missed, taking him off balance. However, Issei merely laughed as he waited for Yudo to regain his footing, ignoring the lost advantage. Sticking out his left hand, palm first, the Red Dragon Emperor made a come here motion, taunting Yudo. Yudo charged again, this time now wary of his opponent's incredible flexibility. Swinging a side chop, Issei was forced to block it to the opposite side, while Yudo continued to push down the shinai with both hands, having the advantage of gravitational force. The struggle continued, with Issei trying to push up while Yudo pressed down. The hybrid teen felt himself losing the strength battle as he watched his sword slowly approach the ground. Suddenly, Issei jumped back, breaking free of the sword lock by jump spinning in midair. Winding back, Issei launched a flurry of downward strikes that forced Yudo to lift his shinai to parry it away. Yudo soon felt himself being pushed back from the furious assault, unable to break free from being defensive. Issei smirked, leaning back before faking a downward slash that forced an awkward block by Yudo. Spinning around the opposite direction, Issei then performed a powerful side slash that forced Yudo to lift his shinai, which already had a loose grip from the previous attack. Gotcha. A rapid series of four thunderous cracks could be heard. The onlookers were shocked again as their eyes could barely make out where the brunette strikes landed. The sound of splintering wood followed as Yudo's bamboo sword snapped in half from the impact of Issei's attack, causing it to fly out of his grip. Pointing his sword at the Prince Charming who was still frozen in place with shock, Issei smirked victoriously. I win. Rias was shocked at the overwhelming display in skills. Yudo was easily overpowered by Issei, who looked like he was only using minimal effort. The red-headed devil observed Issei surrounded by a group of girls who were asking him all sorts of questions, while Yudo was being comforted by those still loyal to him for being Prince Charming. Finally, Kendo and Kaneko stepped up from behind her when Issei and Yudo approached Rias. Yudo's face was downcast, but he smiled a little when he met her eyes, which told him that he tried his best and that it was okay. Well, it looks like I won. So like I said, I won't be making any trouble in this town, although I'm obviously not a human. Issei smirked. No, I'm not human. I'm a mistake. Issei's smile turned bitter, which didn't go unnoticed by Rias, who became even more interested now at his true identity. An awkward silence ensued. Finally, Issei sighed and patted Yudo's shoulder, who in turn looked at him in surprise. It was still a good match, and you have plenty of talent. If the fight was prolonged, I probably would have lost. Issei held out his right hand, revealing a multitude of blisters from the kendo fight before turning and walking away. Anyways, if you really want to know who I really am, it'll probably be revealed over time. But by then you would regret knowing. Issei said behind him as he walked, unaware of the small smile protruding from Ria's lips. Damn Drake, I'm tired. Issei winced as he switched his book bag to his left hand. His right hand was now throbbing with pain. Hearing the dragon laugh tauntingly in his head, Issei shook his head in disgust and turned to head home. Are you Issei-sama? Issei turned around to come face to face with a pretty black-haired girl with amethyst eyes. She was blushing, her hands behind her back as she fidgeted. Yes, and you are? Issei asked, raising an eyebrow. My name is Yuma Mono. Would you go out with me? Chapter 3. The world is falling in love. No, Issei-sama got taken. Why Murayama? A girl with short pink hair and a white hairband cried bitterly as the said teen walked past a large group of forlorn girls. Sighing, Isay mentally noted that the ability of school grapevines was not a thing to be underestimated. In fact, he would consider it to even be at the point of being scary. I don't know, Kat. Issei, taller girl, with longer brown hair tied into a ponytail with a red ribbon, sniffed miserably. I heard that she just asked him out, face to face, and he accepted. Leaving the cacophony of mourning females behind him, Isay also noted that his unwanted fan club has somehow exponentially increased in size. Probably because of that kendo match yesterday. Isay pondered thoughtfully. After all, most of those fangirls were in the kendo club. God damn you Bishoun and the Prince of Devils sensed the hostile auras of Motohama and Mitsuda charging from behind as he entered the class. Sighing again, Issei easily dodged the two haymakers thrown by the perverted duo, causing them to fall over from losing their balance. Why? Issei gave a deadpan stare at the fallen perverts, who have now also began to cry pitifully. Why must you be such a chick magnet? It's not even fair, why God? Issei resisted to snicker at the irony as he decided to take a trip to the water fountain for a drink. Only the upper hierarchy of each faction knows that God had already perished, and hearing mortals pray to God had always seemed to humor him. However, his smile turned dark as he again remembered that event 5 years ago. But your very existence is a mistake, Issei. Off said in that tone of voice that haunts him today. Huh? What do you mean by that? Off. Issei never finished his sentence as the sword of light struck him from behind, tearing a large gash from his right shoulder to his waistline. The teen screamed in agony as he fell onto the bloody earth, his back flaring with the most intense pain that he had ever felt in his life. The Red Dragon Emperor slowly and weakly picked himself up. He was helpless as he saw his attacker approach his mate. Office, run. Issei's voice was hoarse and weak, with a large fountain of blood gushing from his body blurring his vision. However, his fear turned into shock when his attacker bowed down to Office, sheathing his weapon. Office, what Issei was cut off once again when the figure suddenly turned, kicking him in the face. Sparks flew all over Issei's vision, and he knew he was on the verge of passing out. Why Office? Issei weakly croaked. His shock has now deteriorated into anger, but he was too weak to do anything. Lifting a hand, the Red Dragon Emperor tried to reach out to Office before his attacker stomped his hand down, breaking nearly all his fingers. Silence, fool. You have no right to touch our god. Office shall lead the Cows Brigade in our conquest. Office shall lead us to a new millennium, the figure laughed tauntingly. Issei moaned, too weak to scream in pain. However, his anger fueled him as it soon turned into unbridled rage. Office. Issei began to crawl towards her, even though his body screamed in protest. Were those last 8 years nothing to you? Was all that time we spent together nothing to you? Tears began to drip down Issei's bloody face, whose eyes were shadowed by his hair. Was my love worth nothing to you? Issei whispered. I'm sorry, Issei. Office replied monotonously, although it seemed like she was trying to keep control of herself. But, I only wish to regain silence, and I will kill Great Red. 8 years feels, nothing to me, an immortal. Also, your death is required because we can't afford the interference of the Dragon Emperors, Issei Maou. His attacker finished for the Ouroboros dragon, although his black hood still concealed his appearance. Hearing those words, Issei began to shake violently as he slowly picked himself up. Gritting his teeth, Issei lifted his head, revealing his hazel gold eyes were now filled with malice and hate. Greg, I don't care what I have to sacrifice. Anything, everything. Lend me the strength to destroy, to annihilate. Issei's eyes suddenly flashed a haunting green, causing the hooded figure step back in caution. However, Office remained in position, unperturbed by the sudden burst of power from her former mate. Lend me the strength to kill. Partner, you can't do this, you can't defeat Office, and especially when she is with a high-level faction member, she's too powerful for you alone, let's just escape while we have the chance, Drake begged. However, the dragon's words did not reach the 11-year-old Issei, who has already given in to the rage and despair in his heart. I'm so sorry, Drake. But the darkness had already won. A sudden explosion of power ensued, blowing away the fallen corpses as a crimson aura enveloped Issei. The Cows Brigade member growled as he activated his sword again, preparing for the fight ahead. Office, what is this power? Office remained emotionless and stoic as she watched Issei's power spike exponentially. This is the Juggernaut drive, the strongest and last resort of the Dragon Emperors. It is also his first time using it. The crimson aura finally faded, revealing an fully scale-mailed Issei that had orbs of yellowish-green light surrounding him. Crying voices of different pitches filled the battlefield, unnerving the figure. Who is about to awaken? It has begun. Yes, it looks like it has begun. I'm the heavenly dragon that has stolen the principles of domination from God. It has always been like this, no matter what. You are right, it has always been so. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. The one that the world desires, the one that the world rejects. I shall become the red dragon of domination. It was always power. It was always love. But no matter the times, you always choose the path to ruin. And I shall sink you to the depths of the crimson purgatory. Juggernaut drive. Issei's armor soon expanded, giving the form of a giant armored dragon. Roaring, the large crimson beast set its haunting gaze on Office and the Cows Brigade member. How can he still have so much power with those injuries? Cursing, the figure charged up a blast of light before firing it at the dragon, who took the attack headfirst. However, the figure was shocked when the reddish aura around the dragon absorbed the blast, giving the attack no effect. "Office," the figure cried as the dragon suddenly charged him, biting his arm off before throwing him into the air. Office watched nonchalantly as the figure was easily dismembered, shredded to pieces by the dragon's sharp teeth and claws. Issei Office felt something wet trickle down her cheek when the dragon then turned to her before charging again. Lifting a hand, she fired a black phantasmal snake that easily went through the dragon's aura and armor. The beast suddenly froze as stiff as a board before collapsing onto the ground and creating a large tremor. Issei moaned as he regained consciousness, slowly opening one eye. The Prince of Devils was powerless and tired as he saw Office slowly approach him. Lifting a finger, she pointed it at his face. "Office." Calmly, Office shot another black snake at his head. Issei only remembered more agonizing pain before he blacked out, although it wasn't the physical pain that had hurt him the most. It was his heart, which has shattered to fragments from betrayal and deceit. "I am sorry. Partner." Partner, Issei snapped back to reality after hearing Drake's voice. The Red Dragon Emperor finally realized that the bell had already rung and that he was standing like an idiot in the hall. A bitter, dark smile was also stuck on his lips. "Sorry, Drake." Issei shook his head to clear his mind as he headed towards his homeroom. "Guess that I still have my mind on other things. If you're thinking about the fallen angel that you're going on a date with today, don't worry. She and a million of those fallen angels wouldn't come even close to half our power." Issei laughed. "No, Drake, I'm not thinking about that. It's just the whole concept of being girlfriend-boyfriend and going on dates that is messing with me. Thanks for the confidence boost, though." The dragon was silent for a moment. "You were thinking about the past again, weren't you, Isay?" The said teen froze mid-step before finishing the motion. "Trust me, we will have the chance to meet Office again for revenge. You definitely have the potential to defeat her now, I'm certain of it." Isay was silent as he stopped walking for a brief moment, staring out of the window to observe the clear azure sky. "Revenge, huh? But can I take revenge on someone who I still love?" Isay was glad that the classes felt quick, since he wanted to quickly find out what the fallen angels have in store for him. Exiting the school's gate, Isay felt a tick mark appearing on his forehead when he suddenly sensed the aura of devils. "Rias Gremory." Isay called over to the potted plant just outside of the gates. "I thought we had the agreement in which I get to come and go as I please, so as long as I do not create trouble in your territory." Rias stepped out from behind the potted plant with a Kendo, Kaneko, and Yudo, who all had sheepish looks on their faces. Blushing madly, Rias tried to avert his piercing gaze. "My peerage and I are not interfering with your business, Isay. We just want to make sure that none of the fallen angels are making a move on you." Isay raised an eyebrow at her last words. The teen was about to reply before he was suddenly tackled from behind by a familiar mass. "Oh no. Why is she here?" "Argento, I heard that you were going on a date with your new girlfriend today." Remus cooed affectionately while patting his head. Seeing Rias, she immediately felt a sly smirk poking from her lips. "So is she the lucky girl my little brother has fallen for? I see my little Isay likes the bustier ones." Isay felt himself blush madly with Rias as they both looked away simultaneously. Yudo and Akeno were both trying to stifle their laughter, while even Kaneko had a small smile on her face. On each hand, Isay's embarrassment has now transformed into annoyance. "Why are you here?" "Because I heard from the other teachers that my little Isay has a new girlfriend." Remus now had sparkles in her eyes as she explained. "As a student teacher, I need to know the major relationships between the important students in the school. Also, you left a lot of your female teachers in tears after your relationship status was known." She finished with a sly wink. "Oh father, why must this happen to me?" Isay felt himself deadpan as he watched his sister embarrass him as well as herself in front of the devils. "I forgot that she was a student teacher for Kuo." Thankfully, her sister finally decided that it was time to go home. "Well, Isay, have fun on your date. By the way, I want all that juicy information on it once you get home." Remus began to walk away, but then she suddenly turned and decided to add one more piece of advice in front of everyone. "Remember, Isay, don't forget to use protection." After hearing those words, Ria's face turned even redder, maybe even redder than her hair. She couldn't believe that she was left speechless. However, Isay remained a neutral expression, although he knew that something definitely broke inside of him. And this is why she is the adopted one of the family. "Thanks for the date, Isay-kun, that was really fun." Yuma thanked him as they finally sat down on the park bench, enjoying their ice creams. The date had been normal, with a trip to the mall, a dinner, and finally the walk in the park. Sighing, Isay wished that the Rias and her peerage would stop being so nosy. "Fine, you all can come. As long as you stay hidden and swear on all that you hold precious that none of this ever happened, understood?" A broken Isay whispered lifelessly as Remus finally disappeared from his field of vision. Nodding, Yudo, Akeno, and Kaneko gave him a thumbs up. Rias also gave him a thumbs up, except that she was still looking down and hiding her cherry red face. Is something wrong, Issei-kun? Did you not enjoy the date? Yuma gave him an innocent look as she asked. Currently, Issei's date looked like the perfect picture of innocence, but he knew better than to lower his guard. No. The date was fine. Everything was fine. Issei trailed off as Yuma began to close in on him. Gulping, Issei stared at the inviting lips of the beautiful fallen angel. Office. I'm sorry, Yuma-chan. Issei stopped her lips with his index finger, surprising the girl as she backed away. But I'm not ready for such intimacy yet. Can we please take it slow? Suddenly, Yuma began to laugh hysterically as she stood up. It was an ugly sound, filled with contempt and sadism. Oh god, aren't you such a goody two-shoes? Black wings sprouting from her back, Yuma flew on top of the fountain as she transformed. Issei watched unimpressed as she floated down in her S&M attire. Well, I knew that fallen angels were cast down from heaven because their view on the pleasures of life was considered sinful. But honestly, that attire really takes the cake and probably has eaten it too. Well, Issei. Yuma's voice has changed from an innocent girl's to a husky, seductive tone. Would you die for me? The fallen angel quickly conjured up a purple spear of light. Would you die for me? Issei froze, remembering his 8th birthday. It was the same birthday that he had confessed to Office. I love you a little, Isay, blushing madly, confessed as he held out his slice of his birthday cake to Office. However, the Ouroboros dragon merely tilted her head, questioning his actions. I do not know the meaning of love. Office deadpanned as she took the slice of cake. After all, food was food. Issei's embarrassment turned into shock. Why, you don't know what love is? Well, it's… Office gazed up for a second from the cake, expecting an explanation. However, seeing Issei trailing off and unable to describe what love is, the immortal decided to go back to her delicious dessert first. Well, it's like eating cake. Issei finally pointed at the half-finished sweet. It gives you a good feeling, except like a million times better. That's what love is. Office. Office finally finished the cake, licking her lips. The immortal recalled back in history when she had met individuals, both mortals and immortals alike, do foolish things for another person that they called their love. In fact, some of them even died to protect that very person, with which they said they did it for the sake of love. Issei, would you die for the person you loved? Office questioned the little boy, who was currently wiping away some of the whipped cream on her cheek with a napkin. Giving her a quizzical look, Issei stopped and pondered on it for a moment. Finally, a grin broke through his rosy cheeks as he lifted his left fist into the air, a sparkle of determination in his eyes. Of course I would. After all, if you love someone, then you should give everything to them, even your life. The Ouroboros dragon felt a small smile poke itself against her lips as she leaned forward. Then, Issei. The little boy was shocked at the gentle contact on his lips before he closed his eyes and accepted it. Finally, after a passionate moment, the two broke away the kiss. Would you die for me? Issei didn't even register the pain when the spear entered his right thigh. Looking down, the Red Dragon Emperor finally noticed that Yuma had thrown her spear, impaling his leg to the ground. Oh, ouch. Yuma laughed manically as she saw the blood leak out of his leg. That's right, bleed for me some more. Seeing Rias and her peerage about to jump out from the bushes behind her, Issei shook his head, signaling for them to not interfere. What do you want from me, Yuma? Don't call me by that disgusting name, Yuma snarled as she created a second light spear before throwing it. My name's Rainer. Leaning to the side, Issei ignored his burning in his right leg as he twisted, avoiding the attack with his flexibility. Why are you doing this? Sneering, Rainer continued to create another light spear, except this one was much larger and resonated more power than her previous ones. The sacred gear that resides within you is a threat to us fallen angels, but don't blame us, blame the god who decided to place the sacred gear inside of you. The fallen angel charged Issei, throwing the beam of light. Now die. Rainer laughed evilly as the spear made direct contact, creating a huge explosion. However, her triumphant moment was cut short when she nearly avoided a blast of crimson magic from behind, a few of her black feathers falling off from the attack. What? Rias Gremory had spite filled in her eyes as her hands were fully loaded with spheres of crimson energy. Kaneko, Yudo, and Akeno stepped out from behind her. Fallen angel, how dare you hurt someone within the area of my jurisdiction? DCH Rainer scowled as she prepared to retaliate by creating multiple light spears, but was cut short when a voice cut through the smoke. Wait. Balance breaker. The Devils and Fallen Angel was greeted by the sight of Isay in bulky crimson armor, resembling a mix between half-dragon and half-knight. Equipped with a boosted gear scale mail, the Red Dragon Emperor was unfazed by Rainer's attack. You still haven't finished dancing with me. Boosted gear scale mail. The boosted gear, one of the 13 Longinus. Ria's eyes widened in amazement as Raynor screeched in fury, sending multiple light spears at Issei. Issei cried. However, her worry was cut short when the reddish aura exerted around Issei absorbed the projectiles. Wow. What trickery is this? Raynor's face was now twisted like an enraged monster. Why are my attacks having no effect? This is called the Welsh Dragon's dominance. Issei explained. It's an aura I naturally exude when I activate the boosted gear. Basically, any attacks that are dealt by opponents who the boosted gear recognizes as being less than half my power level would have no effect. Grahh. Raynor shrieked as she began charging up a gigantic light spear, the size of a large torpedo. Rias, Kaneko, Akeno, and Yudo all were pushed back from the massive force. I for Kakabiel Sama Issei. How about no? Issei calmly replied as he lifted his left arm up, which was covered by the large gauntlet. The Red Dragon Emperor then disappeared from vision as he jumped. Boost. Raynor's spear suddenly dissipated when she felt something painful impact her gut, making spittle fly from her mouth. Losing consciousness, she began to fall before she felt two strong arms wrap around her waist. Before she blacked out, Raynor managed to look up and catch sight of Issei's handsome face, who gave her a teasing smirk. I can't let you destroy this park now, can I? That'd be terribly impolite on a first date. What are you going to do with her, Issei? Rias asked as she saw Issei pick Raynor up and sling her over his shoulders. Fidgeting, Rias cursed the weak part of herself that also wanted to be in the handsome teen's arms. I'm not sure yet. Definitely ask her a couple of questions. Find out who sent her. Just the usual. Looking up, Issei stared into Ria's turquoise eyes, which told him that she didn't believe any of the words he said. Issei deadpanned. Come on, it's not like I'll grape her or anything. Anyways, see you all tomorrow. Waving to Yudo and Akeno, he affectionately patted Kaneko's head before walking away with the unconscious fallen angel. Alright everyone, let's head back as well. Rias pouted as she opened up a teleportation circle back to the clubroom. Smiling, her peerage followed her into the vortex as they knew that their president had more than just a little crush on the Red Dragon Emperor. Unfortunately, neither Issei nor anyone else have noticed the pair of eyes that had witnessed the entire event from the shadows. Issei. Chapter 4. Bless your name. MMA. Raynor woke up to the warm, sunny rays that shined on her face. Opening her amethyst eyes, she found herself in a soft bed with a tall glass of water beside her on a nightstand. Where am I? Getting up, she winced in pain as her gut wrenched. Lifting the blankets, Raynor noticed that her S&M outfit was also gone, replaced with pure white pajamas, and that she had bandages wrapped around her abdomen. Feeling parched, she reached for the glass of water just as the door to the room opened, revealing a slightly disheveled Issei holding a tray of food. The teen only wore a white t-shirt and a pair of black shorts. Oh, you're awake. Good morning. Issei commented casually as Raynor tried to conjure up a light spear, only to wince in sharp pain as she collapsed back onto the bed. Sighing, the Prince of Devils lazily moved the glass of water and placed the tray onto the nightstand, ignoring the hate-filled glare of the fallen angel. What did you do to me, filthy human? Raynor hoarsely snarled as she struggled to scratch Issei, who easily dodged the weakened girl. How dare you touch me when I am helpless? Issei gave her a deadpan look just as Rama suddenly barged in, hands on her hips as she jumped onto the bed, pointing an accusing finger at Raynor. Her light violet eyes were filled with anger as they pierced into Raynor's purples, cowing even the battle-hardened fallen angel. Shut up, the better question is, how dare you try to hurt my cute little brother? Rama fumed as she began to pat Issei's head incessantly, who maintained his neutral face. Raynor finally saw the bloody bandage on his right thigh, where she had pierced him yesterday. Also, he even brought you into our home to heal you, because he's such a kind-hearted person, you should feel very ashamed of yourself, fallen angel-chan. Plus, Ramus then pointed to Raynor's pajamas. My brother's too good-natured to even think of bothering a woman, no matter how deceptive nor ill-mannered they are, and I was the one who changed you and applied those bandages, not and be grateful that Issei didn't destroy you on the spot for trying to hurt him. Normally, Raynor would have felt bad at this logic as she was the one at fault here. However, her fallen angel pride prevented her from apologizing to the Red Dragon Emperor. Raynor had failed her mission in eliminating the target. Shut up, you just got a lucky hit on me. I didn't think a human would have already unlocked their sacred gear to that level, so I was incautious, but the next time won't be the same, I can promise it. Raynor slowly trailed off when Issei and Ramus began to laugh loudly. Why? What's so funny? Both Issei and Ramus smiled simultaneously, but it was a smile that was devoid of any humor. I'm not human, Raynor. Issei grinned darkly. I'm part angel, part devil, and part human. It was foolish of you to assume that I was a full-blooded human at sight. That was what led to your defeat, as I had mastered the boosted gear ages ago, which is why I also have already achieved its balance breaker. The fallen angel was shocked. Impossible, the higher-ups never gave me any information on this. That's bullshit, Raynor spat in disbelief. There has never been a case in history of a three-blooded hybrid. How is this possible? Alas equals Ramus shrugged. It's your choice to believe it or not. Anyways, my Argento and I have to head to school now. Once you feel ready, you may leave anytime. The living fragment of Yazad Saphira turned towards the door. However, I will also warn you this. If you ever try to harm my kawaii Argento again, a sudden burst of power came from Alas equals Ramus, chilling Raynor to the bone. A aura of cold yellow light enveloped the teacher in training. I will kill you myself. Sighing again, Issei watched as his sister finally left his room. Turning to Raynor, he said, I know how you fallen angels work, which means that nobody at the school will remember you and that all traces of you have been erased. Either way, you can report to your higher-ups if you wish, but remember this warning. Suddenly, the Prince of Devils reached out and gently patted Raynor's head before leaving as well, making her blush. Turning to the tray of food and the glass of water, the fallen angel couldn't resist but to help herself to the delicious-looking food. Maybe I should take some time off. Partner, was it really worth it to let that fallen angel live? She now holds some valuable information against you. Drake asked as Issei munched on a piece of toast on his way to school. Ignoring the large groups of fangirls outside the schoolyard, staring at him like a piece of meat, the Prince of Devils savored the taste of the simple food. Honestly, Drake, it doesn't matter if she knows that I'm the Red Dragon Emperor or not. Issei replied thoughtfully. I already know that the fallen angels are plotting something big. However, Raynor wouldn't know anything about that since she was sent on a suicide mission with false information. I'm only curious as to why, so I'll still question her regardless just in case she knows anything. Issei continued. Also, Isay added after a brief pause, a flash of green light came from his pupils, illuminating the teen's expressionless face. I'm certain that nobody within the Fallen Angel faction could defeat me. Not even their strongest leader. After a moment of awkward tension, Drake grunted. I swear, that cocky attitude might get you killed someday. It's still better to be cautious, partner. The teen was silent for a moment. Agreed. Isay's thoughts then began to wander. He remembered the day the boosted gear suddenly activated when he was only 9 years old and how proud his mother and father had been when he panicked and had shown them the strange gauntlet that was now his left arm. Crying in fear, Sadao and Emilia comforted the child and told him about his true heritage. About how he was unique and that a child born with 3 different bloods within them was not a thing to ever be heard of. Starting then, his supernatural training and education began. Issei then learned a lot in the 2 years before his incident. Emilia had told him how she was a half-human, half-angel hybrid and the daughter of the Archangel Michael. Sadao had revealed that he was the original Satan, the first devil who had fallen out of heaven with his second-in-command, Alciel, who was now known as Ashia. Issei remembered how nice his godfather was, although he thought that Alciel was quite weird for always worshipping his father. Of course, Sadao and Emilia also described how Alas equals Ramus was actually a piece of the fruit from the Tree of Life, which took a slightly longer time to explain as it involved a lot more lore and history. However, in that span of time, Issei learned almost everything about the 2 factions, the 72 Pillars, the Great War, the identity of Drake and the boosted gear, the current leaders of each faction, underworld table manners, the 7 levels of heaven, etc. Needless to say, Issei was quite an expert on the topic of the supernatural world before his 10th birthday. Issei. The Red Dragon Emperor was interrupted from his thoughts when he saw Rias Gremory running towards him, her peerage in tow. Issei resisted the impulse to run, as he already felt the Gremory peerage keep sticking their nose into his life, too much for their own good. Hello Rias. Issei replied cordially as he stopped. Is there something I can help you with? You know, I wasn't going to ask you for anything, thank you very much. Rias replied with a cool stare as Kaneko, Yudo, and Akeno caught up to them. Issei was silent as he gave her a deadpan look. Okay, maybe one thing. Rias admitted. I was going to make you an offer of whether or not you would join my peerage. Your presence would make us a lot stronger if we had the Red Dragon Emperor on our side. Honestly, Issei didn't give 2 damns about Rias and her peerage. They were quite disrespectful on their first official meeting, for one, and Issei preferred to keep a low-key profile. Aside from that, Issei just really didn't like any of them at all, except for Yudo, who was alright. However, Issei was still someone who believed in second chances to a certain extent. Maybe they got off at the wrong foot on their first meeting, but it doesn't mean that they still couldn't become friends. Also, Issei has never been in a peerage before since he had never thought about creating his own in the past. However, the cons still outweighed the pros in the end. Like Drake had told him, it was better to be more cautious for now. I'll have to decline, I'm sorry. Issei shook his head. Ria's expression turned into a disappointed one before her turquoise eyes suddenly narrowed as she looked down. Damn it. He's too powerful to overcome and force reincarnate now. If only Issei was a weak stupid pervert, then he would have been so easily to control. Rias thought. However, maybe if I drag him with us long enough, then he'll be more lenient. Well Issei, would you like to instead accompany us in keeping the peace around Kuo, then? Issei looked into the Ritide's eyes, which told him that she wouldn't take a no as an answer no matter what. Sighing, the teen's shoulders sagged in defeat as he didn't want to deal with any more problems. But I think just dragged myself into another mess. Stray devil visor, you betrayed your master and ran away to fulfill the lustful wants and needs that have consumed you. Issei watched lazily as Rias berated the monstrous female devil who had the shape of a chimeric centaur. Rias had forced him to go along with everyone else to abandoned building in order to eliminate a stray devil. Feeling that their target was too low-leveled, he bought an issue of manga to read as he knew the other devils could easily handle it. In the name of the great Marquis of Gremory, begone or face your death. The stray devil laughed, unashamed as she began rubbing her breasts in front of everyone. Like centaurs, she was naked from the waist up. Shut up you little slut. You're just jealous because your breasts will never be as luscious as mine. Rias blushed angrily, glancing over to see if Issei noticed. However, the teen was currently too engrossed in the newest issue of D. Grey Man and ignored his surroundings. This is your last warning, go back to your master now or be destroyed. Sighing, Issei flipped a page of the manga. I wish they'd stop being so noisy. Also, I promised to Lass equals Ramus that I'd be home before 7 o'clock today. I hope they hurry up in dealing with this. Alright Issei, watch this. Rias commanded as Kaneko, Yudo, and Kendo got into ready positions. Issei frowned as he looked up, having been interrupted at a good part in his manga. Since this is your first time observing a peerage in action, examine how each member of my family fights according to their reincarnated piece. Watching each one of them attack the stray devil, Issei couldn't help but be slightly impressed at the effects of the evil pieces. The Red Dragon Emperor watched the other members easily beat down the beast, quickly leading it to the final blow. And I, the king. Rias told him as she charged up a magical blast, erasing the abomination from existence. Any questions? No. Issei shook his head. That was quite an impressive job, though. You've trained your peerage well. See you all tomorrow. Rias blushed at the praise, placing a hand on her cheek and sighing happily. However, she was so caught up in his words that she didn't even notice him leaving. Kaneko, Yudo, and Kendo also sweat dropped simultaneously, all thinking about how Rias had fallen hard for the teen. Just what were they going to do with her in this state? Issei had been walking home when he felt an eerie presence within a house he had walked by. Turning around, his eyes narrowed when the smell of fresh blood reached his nose. Greg, do you sense that as well? Issei asked the dragon. Yes, I do. It feels as if something inside has already killed all its inhabitants and is still there. Are you suggesting that we check it out? Drake questioned. You already know. Issei smirked as he ran towards the house. Kicking open the door, the teen observed the amount of gore splattered across the wall. Geez. Someone certainly made a large mess. Walking into the living room, Issei felt a great rage build up within him. He observed the 3 bodies messily crucified to the wall, ridden with cuts and gouges. The signs of torture were obvious, and how that the 3 individuals did not have a fast death. However, it was not the deaths of the adults that angered him, it was the last body that stabbed at his heart. A child, with haunting hazel eyes and brown hair just like his, was staring lifelessly as his mouth was open in an unheard scream. He couldn't have been older than the age of 10, maybe 12. Groaning, Issei clutched his head in sudden agony. The angelic and demonic blood within him was beginning to conflict again, causing him to start losing control of himself to 2 different personalities. His demonic side was telling him to disregard the worthless humans and laugh at their plight, while his angelic side wanted to bring justice to the culprit by annihilation while tending to the bodies. However, his human mentality was being torn apart by the 2 conflicting elements. Partner, are you okay? Is the split happening again? Drake asked worriedly. Finally, Issei straightened up, his hair overshadowing his eyes. Yeah Drake, but it's okay now. I know what I have to do. He walked closer to the bloody and heartbreaking scene. I'm sorry. Issei whispered to the bodies as he sensed a presence crawling up from behind him, attempting an ambush from the back. Did you do this, Mr. Exorcist? The presence stopped moving from being found out. However, he began to laugh manically instead, adding fuel to Issei's rage. Well. Those are some good senses, you shitty devil, and yes I did, that's what this shitty family deserves for calling on devils. The exorcist laughed as he brandished a blade of light in his right hand and an exorcist gun in his left. He had white hair and wore the clothes of a priest. My name's Fried Selzen, what's yours shithead? Let's have a dance of death together. My name's Issei Maou, your demise. Isay calmly said before suddenly turning around, swinging his right fist. Fred was shocked by the speed as he received the punch in the face, throwing him back against the staircase. Spitting out blood, the stray exorcist grinned madly as he pulled himself up. I like you, shitty devil, eat this. Fred began spamming rounds from his exorcist gun, forcing Isay to jump behind a couch to avoid fire. Seriously, Isay rolled his eyes in exasperation. Even the Ghostbusters weren't close to being this annoying. Getting annoyed from one of the shots messing up his hair, the teen finally activated his boosted gear. Isay's hazel eyes burning with anger. Prepare to die. Boost. Huh? Fred drawled as Isay suddenly jumped out at lightning speed, getting under his guard and throwing him a jab in the gut, winding the exorcist. You stupid shit. Fred swung his light sword madly as Isay knocked the gun from his hand. The exorcist received another surprise when the teen blocked the blade with the boosted gear, giving Fred a savage knee to the groin as he pulled the sword away from him too. Isay blankly stared at the fallen man, who was currently cradling his crotch. The Red Dragon Emperor was fighting with a cold, controlled fury as he let his demonic side take over. Isay wasn't even planning on using his balance breaker to win this fight. The Prince of Devils decided that he was going to beat Fred Selzen to death with his bare fists. Boost. Damn you. Fred spat as he slowly crawled up. Charging at Isay, the exorcist was sent flying back by a front kick. Arg. I'm going to kill you. Slowly. Isay whispered, allowing his dark side to completely take control. Fred felt a sense of dread as a sinister aura began to exude from his opponent, giving the stray exorcist chills. And not just that. I will also avenge this family. Fred began to crawl back in terror as Isay slowly approached him, finally understanding what true fear is. I will break every single one of your bones. I will gouge your eyes out. I will rip you apart. Boost. Fred began to scream when he was trapped against the wall, seeing Isay's slow approach. A dark stain appeared between the stray exorcist's pants. Emotionlessly, Isay launched a rapid series of pile drivers to his opponent's face. It made Fred scream harder as the punches landed with sickening crunches and snaps. Feeling bored, Isay decided that it was time to end this pitiful fight. Picking Fred up by the neck, he began to choke the former church warrior with his left hand, cutting off his screams. Scum like you don't deserve to live. Isay began chuckling insanely as Fred was forced to look into his eyes, which was filled to the brim with madness. However, the teen was interrupted from his work when he heard a voice call out from outside. Father Fred-san. No. Isay's eyes widened in shock as his arm slacked, his angelic side taking over. The dark aura faded just as quickly as it came. No, it can't be her, not now. Feeling Isay's grip slip, Fred took a gulp of air as he caught sight of his opponent's face. This piece of shit knows her. Maybe I can use this to my advantage. Asia. Fred changed his voice from a mad murderer to one of an innocent and terrified priest. Asia, help me, this devil killed all the members of this house by torturing them to death, help me. You lying bastard, Isay spat out as he wound back his arm to let his demonic side deliver the final blow. However, he heard Asia's gasp of horror, which stopped his attack. Damn it. Isay-san. Asia placed a hand over her mouth in shock. Asia, he's lying. Isay was cut off when the blonde nun suddenly charged up and slapped him hard across the face, causing him to throw Fred down, knocking the exorcist out. Touching the place where she had hit him, Isay's expression also changed into one of shock. Asia. Reset. Tears were running down the girl's face, her emerald eyes reflecting hurt and betrayal. I can't believe I trusted you, Isay-san. You were a monster all along. I thought you were a good person. Isay's hair shadowed his eyes again as Asia lifted her hands to the fallen exorcist, a soft green light emanated from the rings she wore. So she had the sacred gear, Twilight Healing. Finally, Asia slung Fred's arm over her shoulder, leading the exorcist out of the house. Looking back to Isay, Asia's voice was one of hate and spite. Next time, Isay-san, we will get you back for this. Remember it. Isay continued to stand for a long time after she left. You foolish girl. It took a while, but Isay eventually got all the bodies off the wall and buried them. Calling Rias using the house's phone, the teen told her all that had happened within the house, with Rias telling him to go home, as she will have the club members come and deal with everything else. Rias and her peerage operated under their alias of the Kuo Academy's Occult Research Club. Saying thanks, Isay hung up. Maybe they weren't so bad after all. It was almost midnight when Isay finally got home, and he knew that alas equals Ramus was going to give him a earful in the morning. However, she would understand the circumstances behind his tardiness, so Isay didn't worry about that too much. But what he did worry about was Asia. How in the hell did an innocent girl like her become affiliated with bastards like Fred? Hopefully, they wouldn't use her as bait against him, although Isay had a bad feeling in his gut about it. I'm home, Isay wearily called as he entered his house, which was completely dark. Looks like alas equals Ramus is already asleep. However, what he wasn't expecting to see was Rainer asleep at the kitchen table. She was dressed in her casual schoolgirl clothes instead of her S&M outfit. Huh. She didn't leave yet. That's also quite surprising. Issei also noticed that Rainer had prepared some delicious-looking food, which was now completely cold. It was probably in the hopes that he would return earlier today. Smiling softly, he sat down across from her and popped a piece of fried shrimp into his mouth. It was a little cold, but was still quite delicious. I'm sorry, Issei-sama. Issei raised an eyebrow at hearing her sleep tick. Reaching over instinctively and beyond his self-control, he began to gently stroke the fallen angel's head. The Red Dragon Emperor admitted that Rainer was still quite attractive, even for being a murderous and deceptive girl on their first date. However, he sweat-dropped when a perverted look replaced her peaceful sleeping expression. Issei, ah, you pervert, don't touch me there. Sighing, Issei stood up and gently carried the fallen angel to his bed. Placing her onto the mattress, the teen pulled her slippers off and pulled up the blankets with care. Walking out, Isay was still unable to wipe the small smile off his face as he closed the door. Women, there's no understanding them. They can be trying to kill you 1 second, then making it up to you the next. Stretching, Isay prepared to sleep through another night on the couch. Chapter 5. Baptize. Isay stopped toweling himself off when he sensed the presence of magic in his house. After running into the stray exorcist Fried Selzen a few days ago, the Red Dragon Emperor had a few peaceful days to enjoy over the weekend. Of course, that was only after he had to explain what happened to alas equals Ramus for arriving home at such a late time. His right cheek still burned from her pinching. Isay had just finished showering and was about to head off to bed's sofa after he had said goodnight to the newest member of their household. Alas equals Ramus had consented to Rainer staying after she had proven that she had wanted to turn over a new leaf and make amends. Also, the now rogue fallen angel had nowhere else to go. However, as they lacked a bed for her, Isay had volunteered to give Rainer his bed instead, opting for the sofa until they get a new mattress. Although Rainer offered to share the bed with alas equals Ramus, Isay pointed out that both their beds would be too small to fit 2 people. Sighing, the teen was preparing to sleep through another uncomfortable night on the hard cushions. Of course, that was the plan until he saw the teleportation circle being cast right in front of him. Narrowing his eyes, he tied the towel around his waist and got into a battle stance. Hey. Rias blinked when she stepped out of the circle, observing the modest house that she teleported in. However, her eyes widened when she saw Isay's half-naked form in front of her, making her face heat up as she looked away. However, Rias remembered her mission and steeled her resolve, looking up at Isay squarely in the eyes as the Red Dragon Emperor facepalmed. The crimson-haired ruined princess was running out of time. Rias Gremory, Isay's voice was laced with exasperation. Would you please tell me why the hell did you teleport in my house without asking? And at this late of a time as well? A flicker of surprise crossed Isay's stoic expression as he watched Rias approach closer, slowly taking off her clothes as she pulled his towel off. Would you please make love to me? Isay deadpanned, not believing his ears for a second as he covered his manhood, quickly backing away. What? Iridide opened her mouth, about to explain, until a second teleportation circle appeared beside them. Rias sighed, knowing that she was too late. Never mind, it's too late now anyways. Isay watched unimpressed as a silver-haired woman in a maid costume stepped out from the circle. She was busty yet slim and naturally exuded an aura of cool beauty. Observing the scene, Graia's neutral expression turned into one of disappointment. Rias-sama, Surzich's-sama would be ashamed in seeing this disgusting scene. Surzich's? Isay questioned as he raised one of his eyebrows. By Surzich's, does she mean the same Surzich's that currently holds the title of Lucifer and also one of the 4 great Satans? Rias scowled, glaring angrily at Graia. Surzich's is my brother, Isay. Also, Graia, my body is my own. Whom I choose to give it to is my own decision. I won't allow anyone to tell me otherwise, not even my brother's queen. Graia stared at Rias for a moment before bending down, picking up Rias' discarded shirt. She wrapped it around the Ridide's shoulders. However, above all else, you are still the heiress to the Gremory clan. Please exercise discretion. Turning, she finally addressed Isay as she bowed. Nice to meet you. I am Graia and I serve the Gremory clan. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Isay was unimpressed but decided that he didn't want to start any conflicts within his house. He liked their current area of residence and Graia gave off quite a powerful aura. Not enough to beat him but still enough to destroy the building. Picking up his towel and retying it around his waist, he turned around and bowed as well. My name is Isay, pleased to meet you too. Graia's eyes widened. Isay. So this is him? Wielder of the Longinus, boosted gear. Graia asked Rias, who gave a nod of affirmation. Strange, I can't sense his aura at all. I have no idea how strong he actually is. Graia closely observed the teen, who gave her a blank look in return. Also, I can't tell if he's a human, devil, or anything else. How interesting. Finally, Rias broke the silence as she walked up to Issei. I'm sorry for dragging you in this. Rias apologized as she got closer. However, not liking the close distance between himself and Rias, Issei took a few steps back. The Redeed smiled sadly at his actions as she backed away towards Graia as well. Well, see you tomorrow, Isay. I hope you can join me for tea after school. Issei watched emotionlessly as they teleported away, leaving no traces of their presence. Issei-kun, won't you please join my peerage now? Rias begged the said teen with puppy dog eyes again. Sighing, Issei shook his head for about the 50th time. They didn't discuss the events that had happened on the previous day, but Issei could tell that by the way she was acting, it was still quite heavy on her mind. However, he decided against pushing her for information. Everyone had their own troubles to deal with and it was up to their own decision to tell others or not. But having taken up her invitation to drink tea with her after school, the Red Dragon Emperor was currently regretting it. No matter how delicious the tea was, Rias was still being more annoying than usual. Look Rias, Issei was getting exasperated. I thank you and Kendo for the delicious tea. But honestly, continuing to bombard me with invitations wouldn't get me to accept anything. HMPH. Rias pouted cutely as she sipped at her own cup of tea. However, her eyes suddenly snapped wide open when a teleportation circle appeared on the floor. Oh no, why are they already here? Stepping out of the circle, Graia observed everyone within the room. Turning to Rias and her peerage, minus Isay, the maid addressed Kaneko, Akeno, and Yudo. Mistress, may I explain? Raising a hand, Rias was about to speak when a sudden flame ignited within the room, interrupting her. A blond man stepped out, wearing a fancy suit as he looked around the room. Ah, it's been years since I have visited the human world. Turning to Rias, he smirked. I've missed you, my darling Rias. Unfortunately for him, Riser's entrance had made Issei spill his tea all over his pants, annoying the Red Dragon Emperor. May I ask who that person is, Graia? The maid nodded. This man is Riser Phoenix Sama. He is a pure-blood high-class devil and the heir to the Phoenix clan. He is also the fiancé of Rias. Phoenix Issei remembered the clan as one of the remaining 34 clans out of the 72 pillars, holding the rank of Marquis. Observing Rias, Issei made the conclusion to the reason behind the Redeed's weird behavior. Looks like Rias doesn't want to marry him, huh? The Phoenix clan also holds the ability of regeneration, remember? Drake reminded him in his head. Apparently, they're supposed to be immortal as well, like a phoenix. Oh? Issei smirked as he thought about concept of immortality. So does it mean that they're unbeatable? Does it mean that even the great Welsh dragon Drake is unable to defeat a mere flaming chicken? Drake snorted. Partner, don't be stupid. I've destroyed plenty of phoenixes in my prime. They're actually quite tasty if you can cook them past the temperature of their flames, which should be around the same temperature as hellfire. Issei was now confused. But didn't you say they were immortal? How'd you kill them? Drake's taunting laughter resonated in response. Partner, immortality is only limited to physical regeneration. Drake boomed. You can still destroy a phoenix mentally or simply eradicate them to the point where there is nothing left to regenerate. Issei was broken out of his conversation with Drake when he heard Akeno, Kaneko, and Yudo cry out. President. Riser had his hand on Ria's chin as he looked down at her peerage. I will not lose face, Rias. I will take you back to hell with me, even if it means burning all your slaves to a crisp. Please stop this at once, Graia commanded when Riser and Ria's eyes began to glow orange and red respectively. My masters foresaw that this would happen, so they have instructed me to carry out a certain plan in a desperate situation. Desperate situation? Rias asked as she broke away from Riser. What do you mean by that, Graia? Graia was adamant. If Mistress exerted her will strongly enough, I was advised to commence a raiding game to settle the score once and for all. Rias was shocked. I've heard that before. A raiding game. Issei thought. A game similar to chess, where the head devils force their servants to fight one another. Riser laughed arrogantly, angering everyone in the room except Graia and Issei. I have experienced the game many times. Not only does Rias have no experience, but she doesn't even have all her required pieces yet. Rias scowled. And one more thing, Rias. Riser looked at the Redeed. If you don't mind me asking, is this your full team of servants? Riser pointed to Akeno, Yudo, and Kaneko. However, he also pointed at the unimpressed Isay, who then pointed at himself. What if it is? Rias replied hotly. Riser laughed as he snapped his fingers, causing the appearance of the Phoenix family crest on the floor. Exploding into flames, the embers cleared to reveal 15 individuals standing within it. This is my 15 pieces. Riser smiled triumphantly. In other words, I have a full set. They're all girls, Issei deadpanned. However, Riser suddenly pointed at the teen, causing him to stare back blankly. Hey Rias, I think that your servant there is jealous of me. Riser singled out the expressionless Issei, who maintained his neutral expression. Rias also stared at Issei, observing his emotionless features. Thinking that it might be fun to mess with the Red Dragon Emperor a little, she decided to go along with Riser's incorrect claim. Of course, Issei there is hoping to be a harem king someday. Issei blinked, giving Rias a queer look with her peerage. Opening his mouth, Issei was about to deny the incorrect claim before he was rudely interrupted. How disgusting. Ravel Phoenix, the younger sister and bishop of Riser, commented. No matter how handsome the teen was, all harem kings were gross in her opinion. Yes, how disgusting. Mira, a pawn with blue hair tied in pigtails, agreed. Soon, the room was filled with insults hurled at Issei by Riser's peerage, who maintained his calm demeanor. Ah. I see how it is. Riser smiled at the teen, who remained emotionless. You Baluna. Yes, Riser-sama. The purple-haired queen stepped forward. Issei watched nonchalantly as he began to kiss and fondle the woman. Do you see this peasant? This is something you will never get to do, low-level devil boy. However, Issei was more focused on Ria's disgusted expression rather than the show Riser was putting up in front of everyone. He replied calmly. You're only a scumbag lowlife, acting like this while you're already engaged. Bastards like you deserve to be wiped from existence. You peasant, how dare you say that in your position? Riser stopped fondling, now angered at the teen's impudence. Like I give a shit. Issei calmly crossed his left leg over his right as he leaned back on the comfortable recliner, giving Riser the finger. Mira. Riser was infuriated at this point. The blue pigtailed girl stepped up, carrying a wooden staff. Teach this cat a lesson. Issei watched as Mira gave him a coy look before lunging with her staff. The teen saw that she was obviously trying to impale him in the stomach. Lifting his left leg, Issei stopped her attack with his foot before giving Mira a shove, throwing her back at Riser. Drr. Riser growled as he backhanded his own pawn away. Generating flames in his hand, he was about to launch it at Issei until Graia stepped in between them. Please, Riser-sama. Save the conflict until the day of the rating game. Rias and her peerage will receive 10 days to prepare. The maid commanded. Scowling, Riser extinguished the flames as he led his peerage harem away. Fine, but I will win, Rias, and I will destroy your servants. He pointed longer at Issei in particular, who was trying to help the fallen Mira stand up before she slapped his hand away. Limping, Mira joined the rest of the peerage in the teleportation circle before they were carried away. Shaking his head, Issei walked back to the recliner and sat back down. The Red Dragon Emperor then turned to Graia. You know, I'm not actually in her peerage, right? The teen questioned the maid. Even if I did want to help, I'm not sure if I can. But I am a devil though. Graia frowned. If you wish it, you may join a rating game as a free piece, as long as your point value does not exceed the points of the remaining evil pieces Rias has. How much pieces have you not used yet, mistress? Rias reached into her pocket, taking out a rook, a bishop, a knight, and 8 pawns. A rook is worth 5, both a bishop and a knight are worth 3 each. Each pawn is worth 1 point, so 8 of them would be 8 points. I have 19 unused points. Graia nodded, taking out a small device from a portal she had conjured up. It reminded Issei vaguely of a Van de Graaff generator. Then it shouldn't make too much of a difference on whether he can help or not, as the most anyone has been evaluated in history was only 11 points. Graia placed the device in front of Issei. This device determines an individual's point value when they touch it. If you wish to help Rias-sama in the rating game, please touch it and be evaluated. Turning to Rias, Issei sighed as she was giving him puppy dog eyes again. If you're so desperate in breaking free of the engagement that you would even give up your virtue, then I guess I could provide you aid. Rias cheered in happiness as she tried to tackle hug Issei, who merely stepped out of the way, causing her to land on the floor. Touching the machine, Issei watched patiently as the machine calculated his stats. Graia was stunned silent for a moment before announcing the results. Issei-sama is worth 13 points all by himself. Rias and her peerage were greatly shocked. Nani? Means what? Informally in Japanese. Issei facepalmed for about the 3rd time today. I'm going to have a lot of hard explaining to do. Chapter 6. Zotrop. Issei, are you really participating in one of those dangerous games tomorrow? The teen in question felt his eyes tear up as a lass equals Ramus pulled harder on his cheek. After arriving home from his meeting with Riser, Issei had helped the training of Rias and her peerage for the duration of the 10 days. Of course, the Red Dragon Emperor had to keep up with his schoolwork, so the most time he could have trained with them was only about 4 hours each day. Unfortunately, as Issei has no experience in planning out a team battle, he had let Rias develop their strategy for the fight. Aside from not knowing how to plan for a peerage battle, Issei also lacked the knowledge in fighting with a team. However, the topic was of unimportance to the Devil Prince as he knew he could easily hold his own. Yes I am, Wani-chan. Rias needed my help in order to escape her engagement to a jerk. Issei rubbed his sore cheek when Alas equals Ramus finally let go. Catching Rainer giving him an angry pout, Issei quickly added, of course, I also have no intention in taking up her fiancé's place. Rainer smiled, her amethyst eyes brightening up as she left the kitchen table to wash the dishes. Seeing the change in Rainer, his sister had forgiven her as well, and they had become good friends over the course of a few days. Sighing, Isay remembered the conversation that he had with the fallen angel a few days ago, after he and Alas equals Ramus had discussed and consented to her permanent stay. Now living in the same building, Isay admitted that it has become quite lively as of late. The Gregory have been attempting to contact me for a decent amount of time now. I have to maintain a low profile, as I've seen some of my former comrades scouting the area on a daily basis. Rainer told Isay sadly. I won't be able to attend school for a while because of this reason. I assume you understand that your higher-ups have sent you on a suicide mission by telling you to attempt to assassinate me. The Red Dragon Emperor deadpanned back. Also, haven't you noticed that you were under the influence of mind control? After bringing her back from their battle in the park, Isay had changed his mind in questioning her after he had returned from school the following day. Nonetheless, the teen was surprised. He had found Rainer unable to recall any of the events that had occurred on the day before. As Isay was not one to skimp on details, he had come to the conclusion that Rainer was possessed by some of her superiors. Unfortunately, he was unable to determine the exact method of mind control. They were probably against the current fallen angel leader, Azazel, and had coerced her into this assassination mission. Isay deduced. It also looks like the possession wears off after a day. Isay began to instinctively pat Rainer's head again. Rainer blushed deeply from the contact. Yes, Issei-sama. I understand now, which is why I have decided to take up residence with you, in order to also make amends. Lifting her hand, the fallen angel began to stroke Issei's hard, lean chest, enjoying the feel of the muscular flesh. However, Rainer pouted when Issei gently took her hand away from him, although her blush came back when she realized that he was still holding onto her hand. Look. I'm glad that you're interested in me, but I'm not someone who is perverted and is willing to give in to lust. Isay gave her an amused smile, which made Rainer look away in embarrassment. I have been hurt badly in the past, and I'd prefer to have a slow relationship in order to know each other more before making any major decisions. Taking his free hand, Isay gently stroked her cheek, making her blush a darker shade of red. Aside from that, I never said that I wasn't attracted to you at all. So stay safe for me, okay? You better not get hurt, Baka Atanto. Isay was brought back to reality when he heard Alas equals Ramus puff angrily before storming out of the room. He knew that she understood how her younger brother could easily take care of himself, even if she wasn't okay with it. Patching Rainer giving him a worrying look, he smiled back at her as he gently shook his head, assuring her that the conflicts between him and his sister were quite normal and frequent. Smiling back, Rainer went back to her chore as she scrubbed the plates thoroughly. Observing her work, Isay admitted that it was quite a blessing that Rainer was staying in his house. Aside from being beautiful, Isay had also realized that the fallen angel also possessed a keen intellect as well as combat skills. Isay also had something good to eat occasionally, thanks to Rainer who cooks enough, as Alas equals Ramus usually ate all the food by the time he got to the kitchen table during meals in the past. Even though his adopted sister was very slender and graceful, she ate more than any glutton Isay had ever seen in his life. This is a side effect of all humanoids born from Yezod, Tree of Life. Issei-sama the teen then realized that Rainer had finished washing and had caught him staring at her. Walking towards him red-faced, Isay swallowed lightly when he realized that the fallen angel had gotten her blouse soaked, giving him a wondrous view of her green bra underneath, which unfortunately seemed very small compared to her large bosom. However, not liking where the situation was going, Isay placed his hands on her shoulders in order to stop her at arm's length. Catching the look of hurt on Rainer's face, Isay fought the exasperated look that was beginning to form on his own. Especially when she began to give him the puppy dog eyes. Great, the pleading look just had to go so well with her eyes. Isay thought sarcastically as his hazel pupils met Rainer's light violets. Giving up, the teen parted away the front of Rainer's dark hair. The action caused her to suddenly freeze as he began to lean in. Oh my god, he's going to. Rainer's face burned as she stiffly watched Isay approach closer, his lips open and inviting. The fallen angel felt her eyes tightly shut close as she prepared for the kiss. Rainer's eyes snapped open in confusion when she felt the soft contact on her forehead. Pulling back, Isay gave her a smirk as he gently flicked her forehead. You didn't actually think I was going to do it for real, did you? Issei laughed gently as he observed Rainer's embarrassed expression, who hid her face by looking down while shaking violently. The teen's laugh began to die when he began to feel an ominous aura emanating from the silent girl, whose hair overshadowed her eyes when she looked up. Sweat dropping, Issei felt his neutral expression coming back. He realized that he had probably dug himself a deep hole and jumped into it, with no method to climb out. Issei-sama. The wielder of the boosted gear felt cold sweat trickle down his back when Rainer started to approach him again. I'm sorry for crushing your expectations. Forgive me. Issei held his hands up defensively. Snapping her head up, Rainer glared at Issei angrily as a yellow light enveloped her right leg. Issei felt a sense of dread increase as she wound her leg back, generating a huge aura of power. Issei-sama Yubaka. Picking him in the family jewels, Issei felt time slow as he crashed onto the carpet face-first, the colors around him fading into black and white. The teen swore he heard something snap in his groin before losing consciousness. Staring at his host from inside his consciousness, Drake shook his head in pity at the broken hybrid. Let's just hope that you are still able to reproduce, partner. The time had come. Having met up with the others in the old school building around 11:40 p.m., Graia appeared in a magic circle to give them instructions. After confirming that everyone was ready, she began to explain about how the battle was to occur. When it becomes the time to start the battle, you will be teleported to the battlefield through this magic circle. The location of the place is in a different dimension used for battles. The maid pointed at the circle that she had appeared from. You may fight with all your power. It's a disposable space, so feel free to fight to your satisfaction. Oh boy, I can unleash a little more of my power for once. Issei couldn't help but feel a little ecstatic at this piece of information. However, Graia's next words then blew Issei away. This rating game battle will also be viewed by members of both households from a different location through broadcast. Of course, that includes your brother as well, Rias-sama. Oni-sama is watching as well. I see, so Oni-sama is also going to be viewing this battle. Rias looked down, deep in thought. A brief moment of silence occurred before Issei decided to break it. Abruptly. Why the hell must there be spectators? Issei deadpanned, turning to Rias, who began to shake her head and wave her hands in panic. I thought only Graia would be watching, since she is the overseer. Graia sighed. As this match is for the future of the engagement, it would be natural for the family members to watch to ensure nothing underhanded is used in the rating game. Rias-sama had no knowledge of this either, so please do not accuse her. Issei's eyes narrowed as another wave of silence washed through the group. Finally, Graia decided to speak up a moment later. It's about time. Everyone, please head to the magic circle. Also, once you get transported, you cannot use the magic circle until the game ends. Brushing past the maid, Issei stepped into the circle first, followed by Rias and everyone else. Graia breathed out in relief as the team disappeared from sight. Even as the strongest queen, Graia knew that she probably wouldn't be able to subdue the teen if things turned violent. Issei had told them previously how he had mastered the boosted gear at a very young age and how that he was not a full-blooded devil, but a hybrid like a Kendo. However, the wielder of the boosted gear gave away no other information after the scouter had determined his point worth. Shuddering, even Graia herself didn't know exactly how strong the teen actually was. To be able to control such a powerful aura of energy without giving away any presence was an abnormal feat. She dreaded the day if Issei would become an enemy. Well, that item is certainly quite ridiculous. Issei deadpanned as he watched a badly wounded woman stand up, fully recovered and full of energy. They had sent a Kendo out first to do as much damage as possible before moving out, except that the fallen angel and devil hybrid was instead confronted by the opponent's queen. Rias Gremory Sama's queen retries. Rubbing his sore crotch from the previous day, thanks to an infuriated Rainer, Issei sat in the replica of the occult research club room with Rias, Kaneko, and Kiba. They watched as a Kendo was put out of commission by Riser's queen, Yubaluna, from a powerful explosion spell. The Red Dragon Emperor had also declined Ria's invitation of a lap pillow as they observed the fight. It had been a good one-on-one battle that would have resulted in a Kendo's victory, as she initially had the upper hand in terms of combat and experience. However, even Issei was shocked by the effect of the Phoenix Tears that Yubaluna suddenly used to recover and overpower the wounded Kendo. Rias slammed the table in anger, with Kaneko and Yudo standing up in hostility. Their plan has now changed as a Kendo had been defeated, which they were not expecting to happen. Turning to Issei, the Redeed suddenly turned away just as fast as an angry blush crept up her cheeks. Issei, what in the great Satan's name are you doing? Issei gave her a confused look before looking down and realizing that he was performing an action that looked quite lewd in front of his teammates, although it wasn't his purpose. Sighing, he took his hand away before thinking of a rational explanation, which was quite hard since the screen depicted a nearly nude Kendo from her battle with Yubaluna. I hurt my crotch yesterday since someone kicked it with all their strength. Issei maintained a neutral face as he explained. Unfortunately, the facial looks of the others told him that they didn't believe an ounce of his words, even though they were the truth. Shaking his head, Issei waved them away. If you don't believe me, whatever. Anyways, what did you need, Rias? Still quite crimson, Rias slowly looked up, averting her eyes. Since Kendo has been retired, I was just suggesting a frontal assault as I believe that they are now trying to surround us. Would you lead it, Isay? That seems to be a good plan, daughter of Gremory. Drake boomed inside the room, causing Rias, Kaneko, and Yudo to jump in fear. Issei sighed as Drake hardly ever shown himself to others, usually just preferring to converse with his host in his consciousness. However, it looked like that the old dragon was bored too. Was that? Rias began to ask, before being confirmed by a nod from Issei. The heavenly dragon, Drake. Yes. I usually don't prefer to show myself to others, other than my host. I hope you understand that. The heavenly dragon chuckled as Issei shook his head in annoyance. Do you want to just quickly end this, Drake? Issei asked, surprising the rest of the occupants within the room. We can use that new technique for the balance breaker to wipe them out. Wait, Rias called out. Issei, the battle just started. The raiding game is originally a game that doesn't finish in a short time. There are times when it becomes a blitz, but mostly it's a game that takes very long. Just like the actual chess game. We need to be more cautious, even in a frontal assault. Issei's eyes narrowed in boredom. Would you prefer a long, dragged-out battle for victory or a quick victory, Rias? I will guarantee you victory if I can just step out of this room right now and fight my own way. Looking away again, Rias sighed in defeat. She had wanted to try and impress Issei with the results from their training, although it looked to be impossible at this time. Alright, you win, Issei. Show me victory, please. Smirking, Issei closed his eyes and lifted the boosted gear into the air, which now began to glow with crimson energy. Balance breaker. Riser Phoenix laughed triumphantly as he watched Kendo, Rias' queen, being retired from the game thanks to you, Baluna. Take that, Rias, I will crush your pieces one by one, and you will be mine. Oni-sama, we will win this, won't we? Ravel asked her brother. Being a bishop, she didn't partake in actual combat, but provided support magic on the side. Sigh is why she was beside her brother right now as they stood on top of the school's highest roof. Riser continued to laugh. Of course, Ravel will show them, especially that foolhardy peasant she has under her control. Boost. However, as Ravel was about to reply, a sudden explosion of power pushed them off the roof, forcing them to fly to a lower level. Looking to the source, Riser and Ravel were shocked to see the gymnasium engulfed in flames. What is this? Riser watched as Ubaluna flew towards them, covered in burns. Watch out, he's calm. A second explosion engulfed the bomb queen, cutting her off. Riser and Ravel watched in horror as an armored figure flew out of the inferno, with its hand wrapped around Ubaluna's neck. Riser Phoenix Sama's 5 pawns and 1 rook retires. What the hell? Riser screamed as explosions from his side turned away his attention. The pure-blooded devil watched as Rias, Kaneko, and Yudo easily overpower Carloman and Cirrus, his knights, with close combat and magic. Riser Phoenix Sama's 2 knights retires. Well, aren't you sad? Riser froze when the armored figure spoke tauntingly. Throwing the limp body of Ubaluna at Riser, which was already vanishing as she retired, Issei laughed sadistically at the pure-blooded devil's expression. Here's a present for you, by the way. Boost. Riser Phoenix Sama's queen retires. Snarling in anger, Riser ignited himself in phoenix flames as he charged the armored figure, who easily flew to the side to avoid the attack. Seeing Shulin, Riser's rook, trying to sneak behind his team with 4 others, Issei launched a blast of crimson energy at the group. A contact, the blast erased them from the field. Dragon shot. Riser Phoenix Sama's 3 pawns and 1 bishop retires. Shulin, having been at the front of the group, had not taken the full brunt of the attack. Riser had seen his rook trying to pick herself up, but her body soon gave out from her wounds as she collapsed onto the ground. She also disappeared in a flash of light. Riser Phoenix Sama's rook retires. This is impossible, Riser screamed angrily when Rias, Kaneko, and Yudo appeared behind him, dragging an unconscious Ravel. The handsome devil's features contorted to anger when he saw the armored figure's helm vanish, revealing his identity. You. Boost. Yes, me. Issei chuckled as he flew in front of his team, giving Ravel a light chop on the neck, causing her to retire as well. Surprised. You're the last one left. Riser Phoenix Sama's bishop retires. Screaming his rage, Riser ignited himself again as he flew towards the smirking Issei, who waved his team back as he wanted a one-on-one battle. Bring it. Boost. Lifting his gauntlet up, Issei blocked Riser's punch before returning one himself, catching the devil in the gut. Winded, Riser fell back before charging up a blast of flames. Arg, feel my wrath, peasant. HMPH. Then let's see which is hotter, a dragon's flames or a phoenix's. Issei also charged up an energy blast in return to the devil's challenge. Dragon shot. Both blasts collided with each other, causing a huge shockwave that made Rias and her peerage fly back from the force. Rias slowly picked herself up, trying to see through the flames that now engulfed the field. Issei. Well, it looks like your regeneration abilities weren't a joke after all. Isay gently touched the scorched area of his armor, which had darkened from the tremendous heat. Riser had intentionally shot the flames to the side in order to avoid Issei's attack, instead opting for taking the damage instead. The Red Dragon Emperor hadn't expected the burn damage to be quite effective against his scale mail. Ha. Damn you, peasant. Riser slowly picked himself up, wiping off the blood on his mouth. However, his bravado was soon broken when Issei suddenly began to laugh tauntingly. What's so funny? Boost. Nothing much. Issei's grin turned dark as he felt his demonic side overtaking his senses. Except that I can now fight with about half my strength. I applaud your strength, cockroach, now try to survive this. Dragonic slasher. Rias, Udo, and Kendo watched in shock as blades of pure crimson energy extended from the top of Issei's gauntlets, before forming completely into swords in his hands. Swinging them around, the Red Dragon Emperor smirked as he finished in an assault stance. Come get some. Think Kirito from Sao Season 1 again. Insolent scum, Riser yelled as he charged Issei, with swords of flame forming in his own hands as he swung wildly. However, his eyes widened when they suddenly shattered upon contact with Issei's blades. What? Idiot. Everyone watched in shock as Issei disappeared from vision, slashing madly around Riser, who screamed in agony. Falling back, the Prince of Devils watched emotionlessly as Riser collapsed to the ground, steam pouring out of his cuts. You seriously think that your half-assed fire weapons could even be a challenge to Dragon's blood? Boost. Weakly picking himself up, Riser looked at the approaching Issei in fear as the teen raised his weapons, preparing to decapitate his fallen opponent. Well, it's time to finish this boring game. Anyways, I don't like you, so you're not going to get to live. That's impossible, the retiring system will protect me. Riser's eyes widened in shock when he realized what Issei was about to do. No, you're going to. Explosion. Deal one blow that would destroy you completely, yes. Issei chuckled, although it contained no traces of humor. The sound of Riser's screams was music to his ears. Regenerative ability or not, you still won't live after this attack, fire chicken. Transfer. Goodbye. Swinging the sword down, which was now engulfed in white and black flames, Issei wasn't expecting to see a blue blade intercepting his attack from a magic circle. The block causing his flames to dissipate. What? The circle then teleported Riser away, with a beautiful woman with long blue hair stepping out in turn. Turning her cold gaze towards Issei, her eyes narrowed in rage when she realized that he was the Red Dragon Emperor. You. Uh-oh. Issei was surprised to hear Drake's voice quiver in fear. This is not going to end well. Baring her teeth, Tiamat shot Issei a glare that could have melted steel beams. BDRAIG. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.